Hello, friends. It's a great opportunity and a pleasure to be with Product School today. And I have been a part of the community for quite some time, and it actually uh, is a great opportunity. I had to come here and talk about my experiences into B2B product management and remote product management. So this PPT is essentially focused on people who want to move into B2B product management or who want to move out of B2B product management or who are totally new to product management and are looking for opportunities in either world. So I would talk about what the differences are, and I would talk about how those are similar. And towards the end, I will also want to talk about remote product management because that is also a reality of being in the product management job, especially when you work in distant teams. And in COVID times, undoubtedly, that's the reality of the world. So let me begin with a brief introduction about myself. So I have been a digital project manager for 12 years, and it was my passion for technology, wherein I first began as a software engineer. Then I developed more interest into the business part of the industry. So did my MBA. So technology and business came together, and I realized product management is the right job for that kind of an interest. And I also had interest in stats, the numbers, the data. And of course, alongside, I always liked looking into the design elements, had interest into paintings, sketching. So all these came together. And when I consulted a few people in my industry, product management was the line to be in. So essentially, if you love technology, which drives a business, if you love making the business grow, and then you have intuition and love for data and art, this is the industry and the job you should be in. So yeah, that's all about digital product management. And I have spent 12 years building B2C as well as B2B products, both in SaaS model, on-premise, as well as mobile applications. I began at a few startups and then moved into enterprise product management. And my domain of product development have been human collaboration, e-commerce, data intelligence, ERP, which includes supply chain management and discrete manufacturing, and also components of real estate and construction industry. Education, I studied in India and did my engineering in computer science from Indian Institute of Information Technology. And later on went and did my MBA from Indian Institute of Management. And my interests, apart from my work experience, continue to be into new age tech, which for now is space, new age mobility, and renewable energy. And of course, my childhood interest of astronomy and swimming. So that's all about me. Let me begin with the agenda for today. So I will talk about what's the difference between B2C and B2B product management, the challenges which you face being a B2B product manager, and how you can best handle those and best perform there. And I will end with what it is like being a remote product manager and how to do your best in that situation. So the biggest slide over here, how are B2B and B2C product management roles different? So the primary thing begins with whom are you selling the product to? So if you're selling it to the consumer directly, people term it as B2C product, but when you sell it to a business which uses your product to run its own business or then expose it to the consumers, people typically call it as B2B. That has been the definition so far. People have different ways to explain it, but the simplest way is to say whom you're selling it to. So the differences are like this. Number one, the buyer and the user. So in B2C, the buyer of the product themselves decide if they're going to use it, if they're going to pay for it. Unless, of course, it's a case of like someone's parents paying for a video game, wherein the user is the child, but the person who's going to pay for it are the parents. But in B2B world, almost always it's a company or the business which decides what product to buy, and the users are the workers working within that company. So essentially, B2B buying is a little more sophisticated, wherein decision makers are usually a group of people, which include people from finance, IT, the CXOs, the user invoice and champions at the company. And the thing is, all of them need to be happy before they decide to buy your product. So the end user who's going to use it must love it, But then that love must also have a value for the company which is going to buy your product. And then comes the point about evaluation, wherein B2B products are expected to outperform on their competition, not just on like product features, but also on step features like their integration capabilities, and can they work with the existing business applications? Are they backward compatible? How are the software updates managed? Does the company provide for end of life maintenance? Does it support transition? Does it have good documentation? Does it have a partner ecosystem? So all these complex factors come into B2B product management evaluation and buying decisions versus B2C. So this is all which makes B2B product management success a little difficult. And if you look at stuff like licensing and feature set, unlike B2C, in B2B, the whole set of features as well as the price at which you sell those can vary for different customers. Another difference is in the variation which you see in user context and preferences. And an example will be the same feature, someone in the company may want a beautiful GUI around it, while another user who may be into engineering would just want to work with the feature via APIs. And a good example is from my experiences in e-commerce, wherein when it comes to product catalog management, brand manager may want to manage the attributes via a GUI, but a developer may want APIs to upload the product catalog, to upload the product attributes. So essentially, you need to take care of different user contexts. There's just not one persona who's going to use that product feature. And a critical piece is about security, privacy, and data. Earlier, B2B products used to be on-premise with limited access outside intranet, so things were fine. But now with cloud customer deployment, people are expecting 100% compliance on privacy, security, and data. And if one breach happens with one customer, and if you don't manage it properly, you will be like triggering a whole chain reaction across all your customers, all your deployments, and can be a big nuisance for you if you are a B2B product seller. The other set of challenges are requirement discovery and validation. Um, Here, unlike a B2C product, the access to the end users, the data, and the business activities is usually very restricted. And that means you have to look at other alternative sources of information, and your friends become your own sales and marketing people, your customer success managers, your partner ecosystem, which will include other companies which work for deployment of your products, or rather customization of that, or providing support services after the sales. And of course, the market research firms like Gartner and Forrester. And one thing to note is, unlike B2C, wherein you focus a lot on usability as well as feature value, in B2B, it's not uncommon to find that the prioritization typically leans towards keeping pace with building newer features. And you want to scale your features, you want to deliver more performance and build new features rather than, for example, focus on redesigning a user experience for one of the existing features. And unlike B2C, the stakes in B2B are very high, but the key difference is the stakes are very concentrated, which means the impact of your feature, the money which can be impacted because of that, the business operations which can get at stake because of a problem with one feature are very much concentrated. So you wouldn't want to like spoil an existing feature or release a feature which is not so well tested and is not reliable to be perfect end to end. And this is further complicated by the fact that unlike B2C, in B2B, the opportunities for experimentation or testing or doing a minor tweaks are usually very limited. So you have to be very considerate about the stakes over here. There is a question of product success, its adoption, and measuring it. And it's undeniable that if you have data, be it qualitative or quantitative, it helps you to see how your product is doing, to report it to your CEOs, how you're performing for the product. But when it comes to B2B, those data are usually either restricted, or even if those are permitted, you are required to make those anonymous and redact information sometime. And usually it goes to a point wherein the data is essentially of not a big value to you. So summarily, the data is very, very rare in B2B products. And similarly, when it comes to telemetric data, the automatic data collection, You may not have a big consumer base so that the data can be termed sizable enough to make a generalized prediction statistically. So you need to look at alternatives, and your alternatives are you have to have invoice in your customer companies who can champion for the product, who can make other users in the company adopt your product, and can also get the feedback back to you. Secondly, you need to groom your partner companies, so the businesses which work with you for integration, customization, and support, so that they can help you achieve customer success for that product. And finally, this comes from the idea that people say B2C PM are usually lucky because they have access to a big statistically significant data. Their customers can be running into millions for a good performing B2C company. But B2B PMs, their customer base is usually very small. So while a B2C person may be having 1,000 users getting on board every day, a B2B PM may see 10 users in a week. But then that also is a blessing in disguise for B2B PMs, and they are fortunate. So what they need to do is they need to have a good relationship with their B2B customers. They should look at the customer as an asset. And unlike a B2C world where the users are looked upon as a UUID, that's it, or an email ID, in B2B, you have to get into a relationship set up with the customers. And the value is that that one customer or a set of customers can give you the complete domain knowledge. They are the ones who define the industry. So you may have to worry less about having numbers to validate your requirements and your product success, but you can rather count on the expertise of a big set of customers you have. Now, this was all about what had been happening in B2C and B2B product management world. But in my experiences, I have been seeing three new trends coming into the industry, and which are in a way diffusing the boundary between B2C and B2B. So number one is B2B product, which were meant for enterprises. We can see increasingly they have begun to get evolved like consumer products using agile delivery methodologies. So B2B products are also now delivered on a monthly basis, if not on bi-weekly basis. Agile has helped over there. Uh, Number two, end user experience. Earlier, it was all about the product functionality, and people cared less about the visual experience or the usability. But now, since the end users have been accustomed to using great consumer applications like Facebook, the perfect UIs and all, so they expect the same out of their business applications. So that way, the end user experience also has begun to matter, and the competition is increasing around that. Every new company, they can build the feature, but it's about how well they present the feature, which it's going to matter. And the other thing which is happening now is with the newer business models, for example, the model which Uber follows or the model of e-commerce companies, the classification of a PM job as B2C and B2B is becoming less and less simpler. So for example, a person who's working at an e-commerce retailer, for example, Amazon or Flipkart, a person who had been termed as a B2C PM can be building products for the end buyers, as well as also complementary features which are used by internal business teams. So that way becomes a B2B product management piece. And similarly, at a company like Oracle, which sells e-commerce platform to the retailers, who then use it to run their operations, a B2B product manager mind like me, uh, we had been building products both for the consumers of that retailer as well as for that business itself. So the same person acts as a B2B and a B2C product manager simultaneously. So this was all about B2B product management and how it's different from B2C and the new trends which are coming up. Now, another experience which I had been having was with remote product management, and considering the situation now, the COVID situation, the lockdown, and the separation we all are facing, this is very pertinent to talk about. To begin with, there are multiple scenarios into remote product management. The simplest one is the PM, the engineering, the support, and the actual business, which includes your users, your sales and marketing teams, and everyone else who represents your company. Everyone is co-located, and it's just a question of like them being into different offices in the same geography in same time zone. That's the simplest situation to be in. It becomes a little complicated wherein your actual business is in one country in one time zone, but the engineering, the support, everything is into another country. The third use case is wherein the business and the consumers customer support are in in one country, but the engineering and the product management is done from another country. So, for example, a case with Uber or a case with Microsoft, wherein the engineering and product management teams are based in India, but the actual business might only be in, say, US or only in Europe. The fourth one, which is rare but very common now, is wherein the PM is separated from the entire team. Engineering, support, business are dispersed, are in other geographies. It's PM alone working from some other location. Now, this is uncommon and it's only found when you have a PM who's working with multiple teams across multiple offices. So the situation will be the PM has a core team co-located with the person, but then there are other teams with whom the PM works and they are located into different geography. So COVID-19, undeniable. This is the new reality of work for now, and it might be for next 6 or 7 months. So the teams have to be distant, they have to be dispersed, even if they're in the same city or be it across geographies. So the challenges which come out of it are both, there are two kinds of separation. One is temporal separation and the other is actual spatial separation. So temporal separation is about when are you working. Now, this can come in because you and the other person are geographically separated. One person is in US, the other is in India. And it can also come in because the two people have different working hours. One might be working morning 8 to 5, the other person might be starting to work at 3 in the evening till say 11 in the night. So even though they are co-located, their working hours might overlap partially. And then of course there's a whole problem of spatial separation wherein where you work are totally different countries and different offices. So what is very critical for such a situation is you need to have strong communication channels. And the communication channels are both synchronous, wherein phone, chat, face-to-face, spontaneous communication were in place. And then we also had asynchronous communication like email and chat. With the with the time zone and distance separation, the synchronous communications are lesser and lesser available to us. So we have to find out how we can best work using email, chats, Zoom meetings, and achieve what we had been achieving as a team earlier. So on the next slides, I have certain tips which are from my personal experiences, which can help any product manager working remotely. One, if you have coworkers working across time zone, number one is let's all be fair and have a kind of a contract. And it will include things like don't expect others to join during family hours. So late evening or early morning hours might not suit for others. So be considerate, find a time which is which may be an equal compromise for all of you, or maybe an equally good time for all of you. And if you don't find such a slot, the other thing you can do is if mornings are bad for one geography in one week, you swap the meeting hours. So for one week, you have morning meetings. For the next week, you have evening meetings, and the other team similarly switches the role. The second piece you should do as a product manager is one, keep your calendar updated and share it with the team. And in that calendar, mark your work hours, wherein someone can set up a meeting with you, can ping you. Then also mark your unavailability, which will include your away hours, your time to sleep, your family, your personal life. And then do reserve certain time, which we call as focus hours, to grooming yourself, to working on your product in complete isolation. But essentially, summarily, have your calendar updated, which your team can look at and can get in touch with you. The second piece, the third piece is about meeting etiquette. And the idea is that typically when you receive a meeting invite, you may choose to not accept, reject, or mark it as maybe. But when you're working remotely, it's very important that you either accept it or reject it so that the other person knows if you're going to join it or not, and the team can together decide upon a new time. Secondly, when you're going to create a meeting, it's necessary that you don't involve everyone. You only call in people who are most critical for that meeting. So, avoid including the whole team alias or everyone in the meeting. The lesser number of people you have, the more focused the meeting will be and more convenient will be for you to find an overlap between you and the other people. And the fourth thing which I practice is split your day. So rather than looking at your work day like a typical 8-hour day, which you had been having at an office, you may want to split it into 3 pieces. Have a morning 2 hours sync up time, then reserve another 4 hours to focus on your own work, and then keep another evening 2 hours to co-work with your team, which is located in different geography. So I begin my day with syncing with my team here in India and in US in the morning. Then I spend my day working on stuff I want to work upon. And towards the night again, I start syncing with my team, which is located in US. So 242 is a pattern which had been working for me so far. The other tip is do invest in good tools for online collaboration. So convince your company to buy good communication and collaboration tools, tools like Slack, Figma for UX design, Jira for managing your tickets and user stories, Confluence for managing your knowledge base, and Zoom and Google Suite. So essentially focus on applications where multiple users can log in together and can actually collaborate rather than work asynchronously. So you should be able to edit the same document, be it a UX design, be it a Word document, or be it a PowerPoint. Secondly, as a product manager, it's very important that you over communicate. And that means you should be letting many people know about what you're doing, and you should be telling them repeatedly, because people are working remotely, and you cannot assume everyone saw your previous message. So for example, when you are creating a user story in Jira and you added a comment marking someone, it's always good to copy that comment into a Slack channel so that the target person can actually see it. Uh, the third thing which we can do as a team together is set some response expectations. For example, together as a team, you can decide upon that, when a mail arrives, when a chat message arrives in, it should be responded to within a day, within an hour, or within a week. And that can be achieved by your team and your business stakeholders together agreeing upon certain category of emails based on their urgency as well as importance. It takes some time to begin with, but once you have such a framework in place, an agreement in place, people like that. So productivity is always good for everyone. The fourth piece as a product manager is you are the person whom teams look at for making decisions, for unblocking problem situations. So when you are asked to make a decision and you don't think you have enough data to make a decision perfectly, it's okay to make a less than perfect decision for now and let the team move on, rather than keep on making a decision because you don't have the complete data. So if you make a less than optimal decision now, you always will have a time to correct things later soon, versus everything getting installed because you are waiting on information to finally move ahead. And finally, this is the new reality. Until now, if you had a work from home situation, you would want to create a typical office setup at your home. You would be very formal, but in new situation, be willing to accommodate other person's situation. So you may have kids walking into the meetings. You may have the person asking excuses for food and diaper change. You may have someone who's not just working from home, but who may be working from kitchen. So the person might be cooking, might be attending meals while also answering your phone call. So time that we begin to accommodate such situations. And finally, keep time aside for socializing and celebrating. So you may want to pick milestones in your development process, in your release process, and ensure that you celebrate those. So for example, if there's an on-time release, find reasons to celebrate those. If you have a new member joining your team, celebrate that. And there are ways to celebrate that. We are locked up in our homes now, but you can always organize a virtual tea party wherein everyone shows up with a cup of tea and you chat, you talk anything but work. You can sit together and watch a movie on Netflix together, make comment, and laugh at it. And then you can even get into informal introductions with your family members, bring your kids, bring your spouse, let them speak to each other, but build that rapport, because that rapport helps you achieve something together as a team later. And summarily, enjoy the moments. Uh, you can now choose and have the freedom to make an occasional compliment, a recognition, or a fun trivia on your work channel. Yeah, so that's all about working as a B2B product manager and how you can work best remotely in the current situation. Thank you. And if you have questions, please send those across to me on my LinkedIn URL, or you can mail me. Thank you.